Hello students, today I have come with another video that is related to the poetry of Seamus Heaney. I have already given you my video lecture on his poem Punishment, and this is the poem which I am going to discuss today is the poem which is prescribed in a course, that is Digging. Now the poem Digging, before I come to the basic introduction of the poem, you must be remembering Ted Hughes's poem, The Thought Fox. That poem was already discussed in the class. And in the poem, The Thought Fox, you find that fox is an image. It is in the form of inspiration. And this poem, The Thought Fox, is a poem about a poem, that is about the poetic creation, where Fox performs the role of a poetic inspiration. And the poet describes the process of poetic composition, and ultimately the concluding line of the poem of Thought Fox is, the page is printed, that is, the poem is composed. Now, in this poem, Digging, Seamus Heaney also describes his profession of poet. His ancestors were the farmers. So, will he continue the tradition of the farming, or will he adopt another profession, that is the profession of writing, that is of being a poet? So, this poem, Digging, first appeared in Seamus Heaney's collection of poems called Death of a Naturalist, which was published in 1966. Now, Seamus Heaney is known for this collection of poems, a very significant collection. And this collection consists of 34 short poems. And they are largely concerned with childhood experiences, adult identities, family relationship, rural landscape of Ireland, and so on. When I discussed the poem Punishment, then I told you that the collection, which is entitled North, is also very significant, from which the poem Punishment was taken. This collection, that is North, includes poems that Heaney wrote after reading P.V. Glob's book, The Bog People, an archaeological study of old corpses found in northern European bogs, that I discussed in that poem, Punishment. Now, Heaney's preoccupation with this largely rural setting of Ireland, as it appears through the lens of his own life experiences, is plainly demonstrated in this particular poem, Digging. This poem presents Heaney's struggle to establish a connection between his past and to find his own place in the traditions of his family. That is, I told you that his family had the profession of the farming, his grandfather and father. It begins with the speaker hovering over a blank page with a pen, and you'll find out that squared. It talks about squared pen. He's about to write. The blank page is with him. The speaker then reflects on the work ethic, work culture, and skill of his father and the grandfather, both of whom, as I told you, were the farmers. The poet is actually trying to break himself with that specific familial tradition, but the profession which he's going to adopt is also a kind of labor, because he's going to dig with the pen. The poet shows a beautiful description and picturesque description how he still follows the path of his father and forefathers with his squat pen and digs, just like his father and grandfather. But instead of digging out potato drills and peat, he digs out his emotions, his deepest, darkest secrets, the lives of his father and grandfather, and most importantly, he digs out the country that is very much embedded in his heart. Country that is, Ireland. When you read the poem, you'll find out that the poem is full of the terminology of Heaney's, native Ireland. Those who have the village background, you'll find out the terminology used in the poem is very much related to that. The tone in this poem is of nostalgic admiration because he's admiring and glorifying his father and grandfather also. You'll find out in this poem three generations. One, the speaker, that is the poet, his father, and his grandfather. This poem does not have any kind of political overtone, but the poem is talking about the hardships, the difficulties which hard-working Irishmen faced. If you look at the history of Ireland, then you find out that in previous generations, men had to dig for both food and fuel. Because Ireland does not have a wealth of coal, men often had to dig through the bogs, to acquire enough peat moss that could be burned as an alternative means of fuel. When you read the poem, you'll find out some important themes like identity, love for land, inheritance, admiration, hard work, art of poetic creation. These are some important, themes which you'll find out in this poem. It is relatively a short poem. Total number of lines are 31. They are in free verse. And there are 8 stanzas in this poem. And each stanza varies in length. Let us now start the poem. Those who have gone to their villages must have seen the spade, the shovel, the potato drills, and all these related things. So I'll show you the image of all these things, but let us now first start with the poem. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean rasping sound when the spade sinks into gravelly ground, my father digging. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes of 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills, where he was digging. The coat's boot nestled on the lug, the shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Tonard's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, necking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf, digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I have no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, The squat pen rests, I'll dig with it. This is the poem. Let us now discuss the poem. Now, I told you that in this poem, we find a conflict in the mind of the poet about the decision to take up writing as a career, to choose a pen over the spade. So we have the family reminiscences here, some personal touch is there, and in the poem we find root consciousness and respect towards the ancestors. Now, the opening lines of the poem: between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Squat means short and thick, snug, cozy, in a comforting posture, enjoying comforting warmth and shelter. Uh, Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. The poet is holding a pen in his hand and he's preparing himself to write. He compares pen with the sword. Maybe he wants to show that pen is mightier than the sword. Snug as a gun is the beautiful example of simile. Uh, you know, Maybe the speaker is suggesting that with his pen he'll be able to access a power that his father and grandfather could not because they were the farmers. I'll be the writer. And pen has more power in comparison to the sword because he wants to justify that pen is mightier than the sword. Again, you have the word, snug. Snug is an example of the anagram because when you read snug, you know, SNUG and then GUNS, guns. So it's a beautiful example of, anagram. We have also the, alliteration, assonance, consonance. When you have the use of all these rhetorical devices, literary devices, so, they no doubt strengthen the beauty of the poem. So assonance is basically the repetition of the vowel sounds in the same line. For example, the sound of E, when you say the squat pen rests snug as a gun, so we have the repetition of the, vowel sound here. So we have the example of assonance there. So between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I am holding a pen in my hand, and, the poet is preparing himself, to write. Under my window, a clean rasping sound. He looks down his window and then he hears a very clean, means clear, rasping, harsh, grating sound. He hears a very clear, harsh, and grating sound. What kind of sound is this? This is the sound of a spade. When the spade sinks into gravelly ground. Now, this is the spade. Maybe some of you have used it when you have gone to villages or your, your family members or the villagers. So, when the spade sinks into gravelly ground. What is this gravelly? Gravelly is basically concrete or the pebbles. So you can say it's gravelly means pebbly, full of pebbles. Now my father is holding a spade in his hand, and this rasping sound, this grating sound, this harsh sound, clear harsh sound is coming. He's able to hear it when my father is digging the ground, which is concrete ground, means pebbly ground. My father digging. Now, beautiful example of alliteration in the line gravelly, ground. Now, You see, when you come to the next lines, till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low. Strain means exert much effort or energy. Rump is the hind part of the body. uh, you know, he is working hard. He's digging the ground, the ground which is basically pebbly, concrete, full of pebbles, and he's exerting much effort or energy till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low. It is, his rump bends low. Uh, when the word bends low is used, maybe it has two meanings. The bending that accompanies digging, because when you dig, you bend your body, and also the stooping of the age. Now, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. He's remembering, uh, you know, his mood is actually here, the reminiscent, and he's collecting the memories uh, from his past. 20 years ago, stooping in rhythm. Rhythm here means an interval during which a recurring sequence occurs. Stooping in rhythm through potato drills, when he was making the potato drills, then this happened. Potato drills, you must have seen. You can see the image of the potato drills when the farmers actually use their spade, their shovel, to make these furrows, these rows for the potatoes. Then potatoes are planted here. So the first image of the furrows, and then you have the plants of the potato. These are the potato drills. So the coat's boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. Coats rough, nestle, lie in a sheltered position. So that the rough boot also lie in the sheltered position. The shaft is that wooden handle. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops. Again, the beautiful example of alliteration is there in tall tops. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep. He just, uprooted all the tall tops in order to scatter new potatoes. I mean, this is the planting of the potatoes in the furrows, in the rows, to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. When we were having those potatoes in our hand, we were feeling the cool hardness in our hands. So, beautiful example of this in alliteration here in the tall tops. Now, this is actually because you are going to find the word turf and bog here in that poem. So this is the image of the turf, the first one, and then you have the bog actually, because these are the words which are used in the poem. So you must understand them. Now, you the next line is. By God, the old man could handle a spade just like his old man. His old man is actually for the grandfather. By God, the old man could handle a spade just like his old man. Then he's coming to his grandfather. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Tonard's bog. He's describing the hard work which his grandfather was doing. He was cutting more turf in comparison to the other men of the Tonard's Bog. Tonard's Bog, actually a place adjacent to the poet's place, uh, and it can be a bog actually, which is owned possibly by Tonard's family. So my grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Tonard's bog. Bog, I have shown you the image of that. Once I carried him milk in a bottle. He is describing that once I carried, milk in a bottle which was cogged sloppily. Sloppily means carelessly with the paper. That was, tied, corked, very carelessly with the paper. He straightened up to drink it. Immediately, he opened it, drank the milk, and then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly. Nicking is making the small cuts. Slicing means cutting chunks. Heaving means lifting. What is basically the meaning of that? He says that when I, took milk in a bottle, corked it, carelessly with the paper. He took the bottle, immediately took the milk, drank the milk, and then started doing his work. He was so much dedicated towards his duties of nicking and slicing, and hewing, lifting sods the surface of the ground with grass, turf, you can say turf, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf digging. He was digging actually in order to get the good stuff. Generally, it happens that you have your shovel or a spade in your hand, you dig the ground in order to get the good stuff that my grandfather was doing. How hardworking he was. Now, in this actually, if you're not familiar, uh, now this the cold smell of potato mold, this squelch and slap of soggy peat. Now, this is actually the peat. You can see the image. Peat is the surface organic layer of a soil that consists of partially decomposed organic matter. This is the image which is there on the screen. Now, the cold smell of potato mold, they squelch and slap. Squelch and slap have the onomatopoeic effect. Squelch means to make a sucking sound, like the one produced when you are walking on soft wet ground. Because when you use your uh, uh, this shovel or spade in the wet ground, so the sound will be of squelching sound. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slab of soggy wet peat, the cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. Something, living roots actually awaken in my head, but I have no spade to follow men like that. I have no spade to follow uh, uh, my ancestors. Uh, Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. He says that I have no spade to follow men like them, but between we have the refrain. Refrain means when the lines are repeated, and they are actually in the continuation of that. That between my finger and my thumb, I am holding the pen, and if I am not using the spade, I am using the pen. I will dig with it. Means I will use pen for digging. That is for digging the past, writing actually. So here he is not following the family tradition of the farming, but it is more or less the same. They are using spade or the shovel as a tool, and he is using pen as a tool. There are so many tools which the poet has used in this poem. For example, pen is used as a tool, gun is used as a tool, spade is there. So we have all these tools. So the poem is all about the conflict which goes on in the mind of the poet about the decision to take up writing as a career. Family reminiscences are very much there. He is in conflict what to do, whether to continue with the tradition or whether to discontinue it. Ultimately, more or less, the profession is the same. The poet compares the hard physical labor of his father with his mental labor, the rasping of his father's spade with the silence of his pen, and the closing. In the closing stanza of the poem, we find that the poet closes the poem with full confidence because his doubts are now settled. He respects his father's occupation. He chooses to follow his own path. He will use his pen, that is the square pen, to dig with it.